In the village, many of the Fae were concerned for Katarina, elfin princess of Dolphins, as she had not been seen walking around the village as she usually did. She had not even been seen in her golden carriage on yonder hill, or riding her snow-white unicorn by the royal castle. There were rumours that she was unwell, and more whispers began to emerge amongst the Fae. Of course, there were those Fae who believed nonsensical tales such as her abduction by a reptilian bird of prey warship, or that she was a born and bred overlord, going along with the gaslighting of an entire village. She was not that, and she had not been abducted by alien creatures either. Katarina, known as she was growing up as the cutie cat, was born into a self-made elfin family, related only very distantly to an elite line. She had genuinely fallen in love with Prince Willow of Dolphins, and after a long courtship, they were wed. Within that courtship, Katarina had observed the strange ways of the elfin royal elite. But she went along with the weird rituals and the strange customs because she wanted to be by Prince Willow's side. The weird rituals were presented to her as traditional elf and fairy magic, yet they were clearly not that. She repeated the chanting and sang the songs dutifully, making the symbol signs as she had been taught, and she encouraged the royal baby Fae to do the same, yet she didn't understand any of it. She just thought they were old and ancient customs, and she just went along with it, ignoring the weird dreams she had after every strange moonlight gathering she had to take part in. She asked Prince Willow about the rituals and ceremonies a few times, but he just said they had always done it, and it was simply ancient elfin tradition. It was harmless, he said, and all just pomp and circumstance. Yet often she felt Willow knew more than he was letting on, but she just let her fears and worries go and tried to ignore the anxieties building up, which really seemed to come to a head after the birth of each of her 3 baby elves. Then, just like that, she was no longer seen in the village. No one knew why. Some didn't care. Some falsely believed it was a deliberate takedown of the royal elves by the white-capped pixies, which was a deliberate dark disinfo intel injected into the groups of fairy truth seekers within the village. It was not long before the awake and aware spiritually connected Fae began to ask Gloria if she knew what in the village was going on. A supposed artist's impression of Princess Katarina of Dolphins was released by the royal castle. This was to wish goodness and joy upon the Fae on the most celebrated Fae Day. And the story was that Prince Willow himself had painted the portrait. However, on close examination, one could see that some of the paint had been superimposed over other paint of different colours, and the rumours amongst the Fae began to circulate once more. Had Katarina of Dolphins even sat for that portrait at all? Gloria went to see the witch mother, the oldest seer in the village, and drank of the herbal potions, and rested with closed eyes in the hot springs under the double summer sun, beyond the unicorn forest. She began to commune with the intelligence of the unified field, guided by the Pleiadian collective of light, into a remote viewing, expansive container with the intention of moving through the false screens to arrive at the core of the issue, which is, where was Princess Katarina of Dolphins? Due to privacy intentions in place by the princess herself, coupled with dark magic from the overlords, the core itself was almost impossible to see. One could not lock onto the coordinates as the core seal kept moving out of view of the remote viewer, and anything further would be out of integrity. Not necessarily uncovering dark, magical false screens, but when that is combined with actual intention for privacy from the princess herself, then any more movement towards the discovery of the core would indeed be moving against permissions and etiquettes, and Gloria knew she simply could not do that and remain within integrity and alignment to light. What Gloria did discover along the way, on her journey through the layers into the core, was this. The artistic impression presented as a portrait was an artificial intelligence presentation, made to look like an actual portrait, but it was no such thing. Prince Willow did not paint it, and Katarina did not sit for it. The artificial technology, being more advanced than the available AI generating software that the Fae had access to, could make a portrait look like a portrait, or even a digitally altered portrait. And that is what this was, deliberately released so that speculation would occur when anomalies amongst the paintwork and brush strokes were seen. This was a capitalization agenda that was a typical playbook for the overlords, creating distraction through speculation and acting itself as a false screen for the hidden activities behind. Katarina herself did not in any way give permission for the AI painting to be created and released. All this was undertaken without her knowledge. However, reluctantly, Prince Willow had agreed to it. When presented with several unappealing outcomes, then the least worst case scenario was the one taken by Willow. Yet even that structure that Willow was presented with was false deception. Many of the Fae do not realise that the royal elves in the castle are just as played, manipulated and hijacked as the village Fae are, albeit in a different way. Made to believe they are given the core truth and the real picture. Yet, in truth, they are presented with just another false screen. Around the core of the search, which is the pinpointed coordinates to the quest of where is Princess Katarina of Dolphins, came a few sideline discoveries. The princess, in a weakened state, feeling very upset, hurt, betrayed being most prominent, and indeed very, very angry. No longer willing to go along with the strange rituals and weird elfin traditions, not with her newfound discovery of that which had caused her such betrayal. This discovery was in alignment with a dream Gloria had back in May of 2023, when she dreamt of Katarina feeling this betrayal, hurt and anger. Katarina was crying and screaming in the dream, and she didn't care who heard her. She was no longer happy to play the part of the refined, dutiful and supportive wife, even though she still loved Prince Willow, and he still loved her. But there had been deliberate infiltration pushed between them. The reason Katarina felt such betrayal is within the core structure. So that was hidden from the view of the remote seer, hidden from Gloria's view. However, Gloria could see what was not within that core. And what she saw is that this was not just about relationship disharmony, or an extramarital affair, or similar indiscretion. Those things may be within the core, Gloria saw, but they were not the reason for the betrayal per se. What was the reason for the betrayal was running much deeper and was far more convoluted. But looking at the core of that was not possible, as it kept moving from Gloria's view. Such were the dark screens through dark magic presented alongside actual wishes from the Princess Katarina for privacy herself. Moving around the core of this particular quest is the presentation of the core. Due to permissions and etiquettes, it would not be in alignment for Gloria to decipher if the presentation emanating from the core was metaphor or literal or some kind of code, or all of these. Therefore, the presentation of the core, the emanation from the core, as in not the core itself, but an aligned emanation from it, that can be given. It can be given and seen, but it cannot be relied upon as an actuality within physicality, as it may be metaphor or code. The core point here, within this emanation from the core, is the presentation of the trapping within the gilded cage, if you will. A locked away or locked within in some form. The environment is grand and bountiful, not the trappings of a jail cell or dark dungeon, but the grandeur and splendour of gold and riches and the most treasured of possessions. Yet still the entrance is locked and the key is out of reach. We have here, therefore, the damsel in distress, if you will, or the princess locked within the tower. As we have said, within this fictional story, this could be metaphor as a locking away within mind, a locking away within emotion, a trapping within emotion. Yet so too could this be the presentation of that which is actual and literal. The emotion of betrayal hanging as the main centerpiece in a tapestry woven of sadness, grief, despair, loss, illness, bitterness, hatred, disbelief, worry, and all that goes with this. There is also an emanation from the physical presentation of that which was reported to be abdominal at the point of the solar plexus. Yet this is a false screen slightly removed from actual placement, for the emanation from the core shows the womb area and the sacral chakra. Yet it is important to say that within this story there is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, which is the key to Katarina's freedom. This lies with her mother-in-law, the Princess of Dolphins before her, Dianara, Lady of all ladies, she who is the fairest of them all, queen that should have been, holding the hearts of the fairy nation in her hand. Secrets unlocked, history repeating itself, coming full circle to complete that which was always destined to be. The capitalization of that which was predicted, the fall of the tower, will be transient and untimely, presenting just a fraction of the whole that was intended from darkness. When the secrets of Dianara are released, then so thus shall be the new Princess of Dolphins also. And amongst the chaos, the indecencies, falsehoods, indiscretions, false screens, dark magic, and scripts for very bad actors, shall emerge the truth for those with ears to hear, eyes to see, and hearts to heal. We are Magenta Pixie and the white-winged collective consciousness of 9, and we thank you for listening to Storytime.